Hello, Ohio. This is the orientation webinar for the Learning Collaborative on workforce recruitment and retention in behavioral health. My name is Michael Hoagie. The collaborative will be sponsored by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, serving Coshocton, Guernsey, Morgan, Muskingum, Noble, and Perry counties, and also co-sponsored by the Jefferson County Prevention and Recovery Board. I represent the Annapolis Coalition on the Behavioral Health Workforce. We have been providing technical assistance on workforce issues in mental health and addiction services for almost 20 years. About 18 months ago, we launched these learning collaboratives due to the pressure that organizations are under to find and keep mental health and addiction providers. First collaborative was launched in Maryland, followed by two additional collaboratives that have occurred in Ohio, one of which is still ongoing. We recently launched a collaborative in Pennsylvania. I'll be meeting with you in March to launch this collaborative, and the subsequent collaborative will be in Washington, D.C. So what is a collaborative? There is evidence that this approach to learning about a topic and implementing change is very effective. The elements involve us coming together in an in-person learning collaborative meeting to learn about best practices in recruitment and retention. It involves developing a plan for tackling this problem and implementing that plan, receiving ongoing technical assistance, doing some updates along the way about progress that's being made, and participating in virtual meetings with other agencies to talk about interventions, progress, and obstacles that organizations are experiencing in this effort to find and keep a workforce, and to think about how to sustain this more intensive effort on these problems. The types of content that's covered in a learning collaborative, or in this learning collaborative, will be providing you with education about how to identify your most urgent recruitment and retention challenges and to establish some goals around those. We will review over 35 best practices in recruitment and retention, spend some time providing information about how to measure recruitment and retention variables. We will talk a little bit about strategies for making sure that you actually achieve change in your organization. And again, thinking about how to sustain your recruitment and retention plans and your change after the learning collaborative is over. We have a very specific planning template that we will provide to you to build your particular plans. Another element of learning collaboratives involve learning from each other. Organizations talking about what has worked for them in terms of specific strategies to find and keep their workforce. Each organization that is participating creates a change management team, and most of the agencies in this particular collaborative will have 3 members. Some of the smaller organizations may only have 1 or 2. The role of the team is to do a little bit of pre-meeting preparation for our one-day in-person meeting, and then to work on developing, securing approval within your organization, and implementing your recruitment and retention plan. You'll provide some plan updates every month about the successes and challenges you're experiencing. You'll work on adopting some sustainability strategies. Participate in 3 virtual meetings of the collaborative where agencies will be sharing some of their progress on their own plans, and complete a brief final report and a satisfaction survey. Along the way, I'll be providing individual technical assistance to your organizations about your plans and your progress. For most of the organizations, the CEO is not on the team, and in that case, we ask the CEO of your organization to have make the ultimate commitment and take the ultimate responsibility for the development and implementation of a plan. That involves asking them to support the team and the plan once it's developed, to give the team input on their own priorities and ideas about recruitment and retention, to review the plan once it's developed and give ultimate approval, to engage in periodic discussions with the team, to actively support implementation, and to ensure that team members have the time needed to effectively participate in this collaborative. So the collaborative will begin formally with an in-person meeting. That meeting is for the change management teams, which would be 3 persons max. For this collaborative, it will occur on March 4th of 2020 and will be at the offices of the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, which is located at 1500 Coal Run Road in Zanesville. In terms of the logistics for the day, the doors will open at 8 a.m. for registration. We will begin promptly at 8:30, so please come on time. There'll be lunch and discussion time between 12 and 1, and we will adjourn promptly at 4:30. The Mental Health and Recovery Services Board will be providing beverages throughout the day, along with light breakfast snacks and some lunch. If you have email dietary restrictions, I would ask that you email Elaine Schuster at the board, and her email address is posted here, eschuster@mhrs.org. So here's what to do to prepare for the meeting. First, gather any relevant information that you have on recruitment and retention. What have your challenges and priorities been? What recruitment and retention data do you actually have? Make some notes about what you've tried and how you think those things have worked in terms of improving recruitment and retention. And kick around some ideas about what you think you might do next to address these problems. Also think about the obstacles to success and any strategies you might have for overcoming those obstacles. So where would you find this information? You can find it by talking to the leaders of your organization, talking to supervisors, talking to frontline staff. You probably have institutional memory if you've been there for a while and know a lot about what's gone on regarding these issues. And you may have documents or reports about recruitment and retention issues. I would also ask that your change management team, your 3-person team, meet at least once as a team before we meet as an entire group for the collaborative launch. So I've asked you to look for data, and here's some thoughts about that issue. We're interested in what kind of human resource data you collect and store. You may have payroll systems, for example, that collect some information or report some information that is useful to you in that way. Think about what the workforce variables are that you measure. The types of data you might have would be data on the characteristics of your workforce. For example, how long have they been there? Information on their diversity. You may have some hard data on turnover and vacancy rates. Other organizations sometimes have conducted staff satisfaction surveys or measures of engagement, or have conducted exit interviews, so you may have some data from those. Once you think about the data you have, I'd also like you to ask this question, and that is, in what ways, if any, have you analyzed that data? So for example, if you have turnover data, have you looked at turnover data by different sites or by programs, or turnover data for the staff that work for different supervisors, for example? Another common way of breaking down the data is to look at the difference between turnover, for example, with licensed versus unlicensed staff. I have realistic expectations about what you'll be able to pull together, so I hope you will as well. Whatever you can gather in advance is going to be helpful to jumpstart your planning. You're not going to have all the information and ideas when you arrive, but hopefully you'll have a fair number. And you will discuss these issues during the meeting. There'll be time to talk about them amongst your team, to talk about them with me, or perhaps with some of the peers that are there. And you will continue those discussions after our in-person meeting once you return to your agency. In terms of what to bring, if you have and gather some information, please bring that to the meeting. We ask that you bring at least one laptop per team. You will receive the planning template in advance of the meeting, and we'd like you to download that to the laptop in case you'd like to work on your plan with the computer at that time. And bring a pen and some paper, whatever you use to take notes during the meeting. The other special request that I have is that I'd ask each of you, each member of your team, to think in advance about the jobs you've had and to ask yourself a couple questions. How did you get one or more of these positions? In other words, what's your personal recruitment story? How did you find your way to the place that you are currently, or perhaps to some previous jobs? And secondly, what kept you there? So in other words, what's your personal retention story? What kinds of things kept you in previous jobs and are keeping you in your current jobs? So it's an easy task, which is simply to reminisce a little bit in advance about these questions. If you have questions about the collaborative process, email me at michael.hoagie@yale.edu. I would also encourage you to put that email address in your email address book to decrease the probability that any spam filters or junk email filters will block messages that I'll be sending to you. So that is the orientation. If you found these slides, you probably also found the file posted next to them, which is the slide file, so you can access the slides from this orientation webinar. I very much look forward to working with you, and we'll see you in early March.